What do you wish for Uganda's future?
I want a bright future for Uganda.
I wish to see a developed Uganda in the coming future.
I would like the country to improve on the economic standards of the country. We should bring up and put in position employment opportunities so that the youth can always gain.
Education!
We need to make sure education is good and that classrooms are not overcrowded.
I wish my children to be educated from primary, secondary, and even get a professional course.
I
wish for more supplies in our hospitals and more drugs. We need medicine to help children get well and more nurses at rural clinics.
Our country needs stability and protection from rebel groups.
Economy.
I hope for a stronger farming sector to help with job creation and productivity.
I would like the government to create a good market for our produce.
We are growing many crops, but we don't have a market because of poor roads.
Better roads will allow more transport of goods and crops around the country.
Our country has a large young population and our young people need employment.
Electricity.
We want good governance.
We need to agree as citizens how we want our country to be like.
Development, that's what we want.
Whatever your hope for Uganda's future, you must learn about oil and natural gas. A very large amount of these valuable resources have been discovered in our country. At least 2 billion barrels of oil, and there may be much more. Uganda will soon become one of Africa's largest oil producers. The law says that this oil belongs to our country, to all of us, not to any private company or person. After the oil and gas are pumped from the ground, they can be made into petrol, electricity, important chemicals, and even fertilizer, things that are very valuable both here in Uganda and to the rest of the world. Finding, pumping, and processing the oil is difficult and expensive, so our government must partner with foreign companies who provide the skill and money. In exchange, the foreign companies are given a share of the oil. Government will also sell some of the oil to foreign countries, and the money Uganda will earn will be very great. The equivalent of at least $2 billion. That's over 4.5 trillion shillings every year for the next 25 years. This will be the greatest source of income our government has ever had. This money could make life much better for all the people of Uganda, improving schools and medical centers, helping farmers, providing good roads, electricity, and other things that will allow business to grow and create jobs. It could free us from foreign aid donors, allowing us to determine our own destiny. But natural resource wealth, the money earned from things like oil or diamonds or gold, is very strange money. If not handled very, very carefully, instead of making a country richer, instead of improving the lives of its people, it can make them much poorer. Instead of being a blessing, it can be a curse. Here are the stories of two countries, one cursed by natural resource wealth, the other blessed by it. With the oil money, Uganda's future will be like one of these countries, but we do not yet know which one. Nigeria, the curse of natural resources. Nigeria is sub-Saharan Africa's largest oil producer. It has earned over $600 billion from oil since the 1960s. During all this time, the people of the Niger Delta, the region where the oil is produced, have been promised that the oil would bring them a better life. But instead, it has brought sickness, poverty, and war.
Before the coming of oil, we had good fishes, good rich estuaries, good coastal land. We had fresh water that was floating, unpolluted, that our parents and our grandparents had. They were just living and they were getting by. And then this thing called oil came.
In the Niger Delta, we have been colonized by the Nigerian elite, by the corporations.
Even a kid in the village will know that he is starving because of the oil companies.
No medical attention, no food commodities, no housing, no road, no electricity. There is absolutely nothing. It's 100% zero.
We have about 369 oil spillages in a year in the Niger Delta. That is one every day.
We don't know what we are going to leave for our children because the oil company wants to stay here and operate. They don't care about the human beings who are here. All they care about is the money they make.
The land and water in the Niger Delta have been poisoned by oil. It is now impossible to earn a living from fishing or farming. Clean water and electricity are rare, and hunger is widespread. With few clinics and schools, the sick go without medicine, and many people have no chance to learn to read or write. The death rate for children is among the highest in the world. People live under the constant threat of violence. How did this great wealth, this $600 billion cause so much poverty and misery? What is it that causes the resource curse? One reason is corruption. There is a very big difference between what the oil companies say they paid to the Nigerian government and what the government says it received. Up to half of the country's natural resource money may have been stolen by a few big men. Another reason is that it has weakened democracy and accountability. Greedy generals who want the money have sometimes used the military to take over the government. Also, in most countries, the government needs the people and the economy to be strong, so it will have tax revenues. But this is not true in many countries with natural resource wealth. With all the natural resource money, the rulers may no longer care about the economy or whether common people earn enough to pay taxes. And natural resource wealth has often brought war, both within a country and with its neighbors as people fight for control over the resource. Natural resource money can hurt the economy in one other way. When a lot of foreign money floods into a country, it must be invested very wisely or it will choke other parts of the economy, especially farming and manufacturing. Farmers can earn much less money even in a good growing season. Factories and business can lose money and have to close, leaving many people without jobs. In Nigeria, this means that people all across the country, not only in the oil-producing region, are poorer than they were before the oil. 20 years ago, half the people in Nigeria had escaped deep poverty. But now, poverty is much worse, with 7 out of every 10 people very poor. Botswana, the blessing of natural resources. Natural resource wealth, in this case diamonds, has truly been a blessing for Botswana. Before diamonds were discovered, Botswana was the 3rd poorest country in the world, far poorer than Uganda has ever been. From the time of diamond discovery in the late 1960s until now, Botswana had the highest rate of economic growth in the world. It is now the most prosperous and stable country in Africa. The average person has an income of $6,400 or over 14 million Ugandan shillings in 1 year. That's 4 times as much as the average income in Uganda today.
This is the mine that was built in this country.
all the resources, the money that has come out of has been invested in building this.
I am what I am because of the diamonds. Whoever out there is whoever they are there because of the diamonds. The schools, the infrastructure, the whole development that you see, it's strict because of the diamonds.
In Botswana, the legislation is such that all mineral rights are actually vested in the Republic of Botswana.
We have used them to develop infrastructure, to develop the people themselves, to provide water. We're a semi-arid country, to provide health. We thought, okay, what we should do is to educate the people so that in future, when the diamonds are finished, and people say, what did you do with it? We'll say, we educated the people.
The leaders of Botswana made certain that the wealth gained from its natural resources was invested in improving health, education, and the economy, while preserving the natural environment, making it a blessing for all people. We all wish our country's future will be like Botswana and not like Nigeria. But we must take careful note. Botswana is the only resource-rich African country to escape the curse. The story of Nigeria has been repeated again and again. Angola, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Chad, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan, all of these countries suffer from some part of the curse. We don't want Uganda to be next. What made Botswana so different from the other countries? What must we Ugandans do to follow Botswana's path, to avoid the curse and reap the blessing?
We know that countries are more likely to prosper when governments are accountable to their people. So we are leading a global effort to combat corruption, which in many places is the single greatest barrier to prosperity, and which is a profound violation of human rights. That's why we now require oil, gas, and mining companies that raise capital in the United States to disclose all payments they make to foreign governments. And it's why I urge the G20 to put corruption on its agenda and make it harder for corrupt officials to steal from their own people and stifle their nation's development.
From day one of our independence, we pursued democratic principles. Therefore, we built consensus on what our priorities were through a democratic dispensation and accountable governance.
We would like to see a serious government fighting against corruption.
I wish to see us work on the problem of corruption in the country because resources are in the hands of very few individuals, but nothing is done.
We need to have democracy in the country. We don't need these political instabilities in the country. That's what we need to fight upon so that we can develop.
President Obama and President Moai tell us, and many Ugandans already know, eliminating corruption and making government accountable to the people is the most important thing we can do to escape the natural resource curse and reap the blessing. If all the agreements and payments between government and the oil companies are made out in the open, where all can see, then it will be much harder for corrupt officials to steal the money. It is easy to say we must end corruption, but achieving it is much harder. Government has made many promises, but there are forces within that resist. Much financial information is still secret or hard to get, and some officials who have stolen the country's money go unpunished. We have seen great quantities of money lost to corruption again and again. Tens of millions of US dollars in grants from the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. 27 million US dollars meant for the 2007 Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. 4.6 million US dollars from the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunizations. And billions of shillings meant to help farmers through NADS never reach the people. These are just a few examples. If the government continues to function in this way, then Uganda will surely suffer the curse.
Development depends on good governance. That is That is the ingredient which has been missing in far too many places for far too long. That's the change that can unlock Africa's potential. And that is a responsibility that can only be met by Africans.
Government will not change by itself, and the outside world will not change it for us. But we Ugandans can change the way government behaves. We will not have a better future simply by wishing for it. We can have a better future if we all work to make government accountable. Which Uganda will you work to create? One that is cursed by the oil, with money disappearing to corruption and doing more to destroy our country than to develop? Or a Uganda that is blessed with the oil money reaching all our communities? One where farming and manufacturing are strangled by the oil and jobs and livelihoods are destroyed? Or one where the money is invested in ways that help farmers and industries to create more jobs and higher wages? A country where roads remain poor and electricity and clean water are rare? Or one that uses money to invest in infrastructure, creating better conditions and a better transport system for goods and crops? A Uganda where schools get worse and our young people lack the skills to earn a living? Or a country where we can build new schools, have more teachers, and make education available to all? A future where health centers fall apart and health workers, supplies, and drugs are hard to find and people die from sickness? Or a Uganda where our people receive the health care and medicines that they need? We must all work to create a bright future for Uganda. We must insist that government not simply talk about ending corruption, but take serious action. We must no longer give our votes in exchange for promises and small gifts, but for deeds. If the people of Uganda act together, we can make government handle the oil money openly and honestly. If we choose to do this, we can reap the natural resource blessing. If we do not do this, we will be doomed by the curse.